And now for my next number, I'd like to return to the
classic. Time.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Alex back again, and this time around I'm going to do something that a couple other people have actually done already. What I'm going to do here is the 50 album challenge. Now I believe Frank over at channel 33 RPM started this, and Billy Hurst kind of continued it on. So I'm going to jump on the bandwagon early this time, and I'm actually going to do this now because I think it's such a good idea, picking 50 albums from your collection that you haven't listened to in a long time. Now I haven't been collecting vinyl as long as most people here in the VC. I've only been collecting for I think about almost 3 years now. So my collection will be not only a lot smaller, but there's also going to be stuff that will, because the majority of my collection has been acquired in the last couple of years. But a lot of my early collection would not have been listened to unless it was an album I really liked. So I'm going to get into this now. What I did for this was I went through everything alphabetically, picked out something that I haven't listened to in a while, put it to one side. And then I've just picked something from at least every letter of the alphabet. Then I went back through, picked out more stuff from the alphabet, and that left enough wiggle room to fit in a couple of soundtracks and just an album I picked up recently that I haven't listened to yet. So there's sort of rhyme and reason behind these what I picked up. So I'm actually going to go through the alphabetical ones first, then I'm going to do the soundtracks. I'll do the alphabet, then I'll show the soundtracks. So yeah, let's just do that real quick, because like Frank and Billy have pointed out, and like most people here in the VC will admit, we all have a string of albums that we listen to constantly that is what we listen to when we tend to get time to listen to vinyl. So this is just a nice little challenge to pick out stuff we haven't listened to in a while and stuff we tend to overlook. So yeah, I'm going to stop waffling on and I'm going to get into this. I have to reach over here because it's the only space on the floor where I can fit 50 records at once, because everywhere else it's not, I wouldn't say it's messy, it's just organized differently. But yeah, starting at A, Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. Not a huge Aerosmith fan, but I did pick this one up ages ago. Listened to it once, haven't listened to it since. So I figured might as well pick that and give that another spin, as it hasn't been spun in a while. Another one. One I actually got recently in a video that I still am yet to listen to, Atlantic Star. Yet to listen to this album, yet to spin it, but I can guarantee you I will love it. So yeah, I mean, it is technically cheating a little bit, but I don't care. It's one I haven't spun yet, so I'm putting it in this video. There it is, Atlantic Star. As the Band Turns. On to B, Band of Horses. Why Are We Okay? Or Why Are You Okay, excuse me. Like I said, picked it up, listened to it once, have not listened to it since. So yeah, this is one that will be getting another spin pretty soon, because I remember really liking this album when I listened to it the first time, so we'll have to listen to that one again. Low by David Bowie. I have a few Bowie albums. I wouldn't say I have a lot. I definitely don't have them all. That would be too much, not unlike me. But yeah, this is of course a reissue, 80s reissue of this album. I listened to it once and I'm pretty sure I remember not liking this album that much, so I never returned to it. But I will give this album another chance very soon. It's just the Bowie album. All the Bowie albums I own. It's the only one I've listened to one time through fully. And yeah, I genuinely cannot tell you any of the songs on this album stood out to me because I don't remember any of them doing that. But yeah. Anyway, I'll give it another listen and I'll hopefully get back to you on what I thought about that one. Glenn Campbell, Words. I know, some country. Easily the smallest section of my record collection because I think this is the only country album I own. But I listened to it once. I remember being very surprised, but I never returned to it. So yeah, I picked it up and there it is. Words by Glenn Campbell. Night Shift by the Commodores. Love Commodores. This is just the one album by them that I return to the least. Just because it might be because it's post-Lionel, but it's just not their best work. I mean, Night Shift, Woman in My Life and Janet are the 3 songs on here that stand out, but I don't remember what the others are like, so I will need to give this one a spin at some point. But yeah, it's after either Lionel was kicked out or left because the rest of the band was jealous, and then their music just wasn't as good at this as it used to be at this point, so I never returned back to it. But yeah, do need to return to that one at some point. Now, DJ Premier. I love DJ Premier, I love his work, but this remix album is one I have not listened to since I got it. DJ Premier Golden Years, the remixes. Of course, this is a bootleg, but it's DJ friendly vinyl. It's pressed up for DJs who want the remixes of DJ Premier's work. So I grabbed it and haven't listened to it since I did. So we'll need to give this one another spin at some point. Here's one I've never listened to because, as you can see, this, or as you might point out, this one is still sealed. Got by Drunk Confident, Days Like Stray Dogs. You won't never have heard of this one. This is actually a local artist. You can see there it's still sealed. I was actually gifted this by the artist himself. I got both of his albums. From what he described it to me as, it's just him messing around with tapes and making weird noises with tapes and things like that. I don't really remember anything about it. It's just one I haven't listened to, so that will be getting spun very soon, I'm sure, because it might have something very interesting on it that I didn't notice when I was sampling it on Bandcamp. But there we go. ELO, I love ELO, but much like I was talking about earlier with Commodores and DJ Premier, there is an album from them that I very rarely return to, or haven't returned to since I first listened to it, and that is Secret Messages. I'm trying to think what the big track on here was, but it's not coming to me right now. Maybe I need to listen to it again. But yeah. Secret Messages, ELO, one I need to return back to. And here's another one, because it's a genre I don't know too much about, one I'm still kind of discovering. That's Emerson, Lake and Palmer, their first album. Picked this one up, of course, it's originally 1970. I think this is a reissue from later on, but I remember liking parts of this album but not loving it, and I think that's why I never returned to it, but I need to give it another chance. That's going to be a recurring theme throughout this one, is either one I listened to and loved or one I didn't like as much and want to give a second chance to. Speaking of ones I love and haven't listened to in a while, Fat Larry's band, breaking out. Soul, R&B at its finest. Of course, the song Act Like You Know is my favourite off of here. Opens the album. It also got the opening, the title track, Breaking Out, and Zoomer on here. Just an album I haven't listened to in a while, and one I actually really like. So yeah, I need to return to that one. Along the same vein, Glass Animals, How to Be a Human Being. Used to listen to this album religiously, and for some reason, as soon as I got it on wax, I spun it once on vinyl and it was never spun again and never listened to even digitally. So there's an album I need to return to because that is actually a good album, surprisingly. Another one, a band that everyone in the VC raves about or despises, depending on your view of them. Greta Von Fleet. What's this one called? Black Smoke Rising. Very Led Zeppelin sounding, but great band. Just a great band. One that needs to be spun. I need to get their album on wax, but yeah, there's their EP. Jimi Hendrix. I know there's a lot of Hendrix fans here in the VC, and here's a Hendrix album that I own but have not spun in a very long time. The Cry Love. Posthumous release, but a great album, and from what I remember it was great, and yeah, I just haven't listened to it since the first day I picked it up, so there's that one. Hot Chocolate, Everyone's a Winner. Say what you will about Hot Chocolate, I remember listening to this album for the first time and loving it, and I just have not returned to it for at least a couple of years now, so yeah, I do need to return to this at some point. Of course, Everyone's a Winner is the big track off of this album, so I need to get back on that one. Night Visions, Imagine Dragons. I have not listened to this album as a whole in a long time. I've listened to individual tracks, like I said, or as I would, with there being so many good individual tracks like Radioactive, Demons, On Top of the World, Amsterdam and Underdog are the tracks I tend to return to the most off of this album individually, but never the full album, so decided to pull that one for that reason. Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation, 1814. I listen to Control all the time, which has Nasty, Control, What Have You Done For Me Lately all on it, but this one I have not listened to, I think, again, at least a couple of years since I've listened to this one, so glad to pull that one out and give that one another spin. Jay-Z, Magna Carta, Holy Grail. It may be the only Jay-Z album I own on vinyl, but it is the Jay-Z album I return to the least, because I'm genuinely not a big fan of this Jay-Z album. So I'm gonna give it another chance. I mean, I think the first half of the album is great, the second half kind of slacks a little bit, and I think that's why I don't return to it as often. But yeah, this is definitely, it's not to say it's a bad album, it's just, it doesn't connect with me strongly as the other Jay-Z albums do. But yeah, I am willing to give that one another try. If you were judging me for the Hot Chocolate one, you're definitely going to judge me for this one. Kool and the Gang, Celebrate. A group I used to listen to all the time, and I actually used to collect them all the time. When I had a huge there was one point I had a huge clear out of vinyl, and I got rid of quite a few of their albums because I didn't like them. This is one I obviously kept for the song Celebration, Night People, and Love Affair. So there it is. But yeah, Kool and the Gang. Actually, a decent album. I need to spin this one again. That's probably why I pulled it, obviously. But yeah, there it is. Here's another one, along with Low, and I'm going to show a few more from the same collection as well. Because it was the first time I bought a whole collection, or more or less. And I bought quite a few things off the same guy, but in chunks, but I'm just counting it as the same collection. This is one that I bought, listened to once, and haven't listened to again. So I really want to return back to this one. It's Kraftwerk, Trans-Europe Express. 1993 reissue of their 77 classic album, but definitely a good one that I need to go back and return to. So that will happen at some stage. Another one that I love, and I believe Hannah from the Omaha Introvert actually showed this on Facebook and Instagram recently. That is World Machine by Level 42. I love Level 42. It's the only album by them I own though. I really want to pick up some more from them. But yeah, this is Level 42 are just great. I just need to spin them more, and this, even though this is the only album I own by them, I haven't listened to them in a long time, so should be an interesting listen. As should this, Leonard Skinner, Street Survivors, one I have not spun again since I first got it, and that was this was one of my earlier ones as well. So it's been probably about 2 to 2.5 years since I haven't spun this one. But yeah, so that's why I pulled that one. Another one that I wasn't too keen on when I first listened to it, but I'm happy to return to because I'm all for giving things more than one chance when it comes to music. Moody Blues, On the Threshold of a Dream. Maybe I got this as a free because there was a scratch on one side. Couple of things I liked, I remember, but yeah, again, need to return back to this one, and if I like it, maybe I'll pick up some more Moody Blues stuff. Here's one. Again, haven't listened to this since I first got it, which I think in itself is a crime. But there we go. It is, of course, Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. Don't hate me, please, Tim. I'm sorry. I do like this album. I just haven't had time to spin it because I've obviously been spinning other things, and with this not being my favourite album of all time, there's obviously other things I picked to spin before this. But yeah, I did enjoy this album when I listened to it, so Astral Weeks will be getting spun again very soon. Tell me if you've heard of this one, hip hop people. Nemesis, Munchies for Your Bass. Even though it is a 90s album, it's got a very 80s Beastie Boys sound to them, with a lot of classic rock samples from Led Zeppelin and people like that. Yeah, very Beastie Boys-esque, very underground stuff, but I haven't spun it in a very long time, so we'll need to get back on that one. Same with this. I'm a big Anderson .Paak fan. If you couldn't tell from the fact that a couple videos ago I showed clips of him performing live, but this is a side project he did called No Worries with producer Knowledge. It even says there, Anderson .Paak and Knowledge. But I have not spun this album since I first got it, and yeah, I paid a little bit more for this one, so I do need to get back to this one at some point. So there it is. The O-Band, whoops-a-daisy. The O-Band Within Reach. Spun it once, liked it, haven't spun it since. Want to return back to it. Simple as that. Another one, Billy Ocean, Love Zone. A lot of songs on here that I love, but have not spun this album in at least 2 years, I think. So this is one I will need to go back and spin again. Here's one. I remember talking to Tim about this when we were out in when I was out in Orlando, and me and Tim had our meet up with Brad. Me and Tim were in the car talking about psychedelic music. I really specifically remember, and I mentioned this album. And again, it came from the same collection as Kraftwerk and Low. It's one I liked but haven't spun since I got it, and that's Piper at the Gator Dawn by Pink Floyd. Because every time I reach for a Pink Floyd album, I shit you not, it's either Dark Side of the Moon or Animals. Because I don't have many Pink Floyd albums, but it is either Dark Side of the Moon or Animals that I spin over this one. And this is the, outside of Relics, this is the only other one that I own. And I never really spin Relics because I wasn't a big fan of it, but yeah. Pipe at the Gates of Dawn there. An artist I love, Gregory, Liquid Spirit. One that needs to get spun a bit more, because he's a modern jazz musician. He's on Blue Note, sounds incredible. Want to return back to his music. So there it is. again, I'm a big Queen fan, but there is actually one Queen album that I very rarely come back to. And it won't be the one you're expecting either. It's the soundtrack to Flash Gordon. I am genuinely not a big fan of this soundtrack. Outside of Flash's theme, I don't think there's another song on here that I really loved. But again, I will obviously give this one another chance. It's just one that I need to go back and really spin it. I think people who grew up with that movie love the soundtrack a bit more, as I didn't grow up with the movie, and I haven't actually seen the movie. That soundtrack doesn't connect with me as much, but we'll forget about that. I'll give it another chance and we'll leave it at that. Real Thing, self-titled album. It's a funk album that I have not spun since I got it, and it is an incredible album from what I remember. So yeah, it definitely has been about 2.5 years since I've spun this one, so that will be getting spun again. As will this one, Roxy Music. This hasn't been spun for about 1.5 years. And I remember really liking this one. This one's More Than This, Avalon, Take a Chance From Me, True to Life. In fact, the whole album from front to back. I just haven't spun it in a long time, so there's that one. Bob Seger! Yeah, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, Stranger in Town. Out of the 2 albums I own from them, I tend to return back to Against the Wind a little bit more, even though this one has Old Time Rock and Roll on it, which, if you've seen... oh my god, what's the movie that thing's in now? The name escapes me. I can picture it. It's got Tom Cruise in it. What's it called? Oh, I'm not gonna fret over it too much, but it is in a very famous movie where the name escapes me right now. But yeah, I tend to find myself returning back to Against the Wind a little bit more, so this one will be getting a spin very soon. Atlantic Crossing, Rod Stewart. Not a big Rod Stewart fan, don't own too many of his albums, but this is another one that needs to get spun again very soon, so I'll leave it at that. Hip hop fans, another one for you. Talib Kweli, Radio Silence, came out a couple years ago, haven't spun it since. And there's some big features on here, including my boy Anderson .Paak. Yeah, an album I need to spin again. Just haven't sat down to really listen to it. So there is that one. Sorry, I'm out of shot and I'm back in. Let's go again. House Party, Temptations, another one that's not been spun for maybe a good 2 years. And I really don't remember this album, but this was my introduction to the Temptations, and I really don't remember what this album sounds like, so I need to go back and listen to it. Unforgettable Fire by U2, another one that I specifically remember liking side A, not being a big fan of side B, but yeah, one I need to go back and revisit, as that is the challenge of this video. Ultravox, Raging Eden. Used to love Ultravox. Man, I remember I went through a phase of wanting to pick up a lot of Ultravox, and then I kind of stopped at this album, and haven't spun this or Vienna in a while, but this was my preferred of the 2, so this is the one I went with. Life of Vandross, Never Too Much. I actually love Luther Vandross's music. I just haven't spun this album in a while, because I spend most of my time listening to just the title track, Never Too Much. So had to pull that, give that another spin. Some more electronic 80s actually. Visage, famous for Fade to Grey. Another one that needs spinning again, because I haven't spun it since I have it. Oh, and a fun fact, this lady here, on the album cover, lives local. She actually runs a charity locally to me, and she was telling the story about Steve Strange and how he approached her in a nightclub and asked her to be in a video, and then she ended up touring with Steve Strange and the rest of Visage on tour, and just being the backup dancers and even being on many of the album covers. So, interesting fact, I bet you didn't know. Don't know if you cared, but there we go. You now know something else about my town that I bet you didn't know. Joe Walsh, but seriously folks, really only picked this up for the song Life's Been Good, and there's a reason as to why. Because my favourite rapper, Eminem, actually sampled it back in 2013 on his album, and I've wanted to pick this up ever since, even though I went into vinyl in 2013, but I have this now and I haven't spun it since I got it. So there we go. Here's one of my favourite groups, an album I tend to return to less by them, Better Tomorrow by Tang Clan. Yes, it's a bootleg, I don't care what you think about that. Because this album was never officially released on vinyl, I know, don't judge me, but I really wanted this album at the time because I remember loving it when it came out in 2014, getting overexcited when I saw it in the record store, got it for a great price. I now have it in my hands. I haven't spun it for a long time, so I have a Better Tomorrow on vinyl. Whether you want to judge me for that or not is up to you. A box set. I don't pick up too many box sets, but this is the XXICU box set. And another one I have not spun since I first got it, so figured I would pull that out. It's a box set, it only comes with a couple extra tracks, it's no big deal. Another one for all my hip hop fans out there, sorry for all the hip hop, but I tried to steer away from a lot of the hip hop that I could, and I realised that most of it I do spin on a regular basis. But this album I return to not that often, and that's Exhibit at the Speed of Life. I remember really liking Exhibit's music back when I was just discovering hip hop and getting into it, and this is one album I skipped over, and when I discovered it I was not a big fan, but I kept it, so I'm going to give it another listen. See how that sounds. I talked about Electronic 80s earlier. Here's another classic, Upstairs at Eric's. Of course, classic album, Don't Go, Only You. But the British copy of this doesn't have Situation on it. The only way for us to get Situation over here is to either get the imported version of this album, or on the flip side, for the single of Only You, and it was later released as a 12, but it was a remix of Situation. So technically we don't actually have the proper version, the full version of Situation released over here. Oh well. Yes songs, live album, but a triple album. I don't have many triple albums. Well, I don't return to them that often because I am lazy and I don't like to flip the same album over too many times. Well, I wouldn't mind it, but it involves me getting up out of this chair. So, I don't return to this one as much, and Yes are a band that I need to listen to more because I used to really like a lot of their stuff and I haven't picked up anything from them in a while. So I'm going to return to this one and kind of refresh myself with Yes. Last one alphabetically is ZZ Top Eliminator, one I haven't listened to again since I first picked it up. And the only song I remember is, of course, I remember two songs actually. Sharp Dressed Man, only because I've got the 7-inch single for that one, and Fug. So yeah, another one I need to return back to and give it a proper spin. And that does leave two more, and I picked out a couple soundtracks like I said at the beginning. First one's E.T. Not only have I not listened to this soundtrack in a long time, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, so figured I'll pick it up and give it another spin. Yep, and here's one that I haven't listened to in a very long time, even though it's my favourite movie of 2017. This film score for Blade Runner 2049. Amazing score. I don't know why I haven't spun this one in a long time, but there it is. Woo! We did it, guys. We got through that. Just about. I'm just about still sitting in this chair. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel. If you're new here, welcome. Please subscribe. I could really do with the help. But for those returning, welcome back. Thanks again for tuning back into the channel, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Peace.